Hare Krishna. Welcome to our Sunday Krishna book reading to Srila Prabhupada here in his sacred rooms, Sri Vrindavan Dham. And as always, let us begin by offering our respectful obeisances to Srila Prabhupada and to each other. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharane Nirvasesha Sunyavadi Paskachade Shatarane. And to each other, Vanchakalpadurubhischa Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So for all of our participants online, you can note at the bottom there's subtitles there that will help you to hear Krishna book better by following along. So we are on chapter 88, the deliverance of Lord Shiva. So we got a few pages into the chapter. So I don't know which Krishna book everyone online has, but we're around 884, page 884, and the paragraph begins with, Lord Krishna said to King Yudhisthira. Jai Shri Ram. Prabhu is from Ayodhya. Lord Krishna said to King Yudhisthira, my devotee is not deterred by any adverse conditions of life. He always remains firm and steady. Therefore, I give myself to him, and I favor him so that he can achieve the highest success of life. The mercy bestowed upon the tried devotee by the Supreme Personality is described as Brahma, which indicates that the greatness of that mercy can be compared only to the all-pervasive greatness of Brahman. Brahma means unlimitedly great and unlimitedly expanding. That mercy is also described as Paramam, for it has no comparison within this material world, and it is also called Shukshman, very fine. Not only is the Lord's mercy upon the tried devotee great and unlimitedly expansive, but it is of the finest quality of transcendental love between the devotee and the Lord. Such mercy is further described as Chinmatram, completely spiritual. The use of the word matram indicates absolute spirituality with no tinge of material qualities. That mercy is also called Sat, eternal, and Anantakam, unlimited. Since the devotee of the Lord is awarded such unlimited spiritual benefit, why should he worship the demigods? A devotee of Krishna does not worship Lord Shiva or Brahma or any other subordinate demigod. He completely devotes himself to the transcendental loving service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Shukadeva Goswami continued, the demigods headed by Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, and including Lord Indra, Chandra, Varuna and others, are apt to be very quickly satisfied or very quickly angered by the good or ill behavior of their devotees. But this is not so with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu. This means that every living entity within this material world, including the demigods, is conducted by the three modes of material nature, and therefore the qualities of ignorance and the passion are very prominent within the material world. Those devotees who take blessings from the demigods are also infected with the material qualities, especially passion and ignorance. Lord Sri Krishna has therefore stated in the Bhagavad Gita that to take blessings from the demigods is less intelligent, because when one takes benediction from the demigods, the results of such benedictions are temporary. It is easy to get material opulence by worshipping the demigods, but the result is sometimes disastrous. As such, The benedictions derived from demigods are appreciated only by the less intelligent class of men. People who derive benediction from the demigods gradually become puffed up with the material opulence and neglectful of their benefactors.
Sukdev Goswami addressed King Parishit. Thus, my dear King, Lord Brahma, Lord Vishnu, and Lord Shiva, the principal trio of the material creation, are able to bless or curse anyone. Of this trio, Lord Brahma and Shiva are very easily satisfied, but also very easily angered. When satisfied, they give benediction without consideration, and when angry, they curse the devotee without consideration. But the Lord Vishnu is not like that. Lord Vishnu is very considerate. Whenever a devotee wants something from Lord Vishnu first consider whether such benediction will ultimately be good for the devotee. Lord Vishnu never bestowed any benediction which will ultimately prove disaster to the devotee. By his transcendental nature, he is always merciful. Therefore, before giving any benediction, he considers whether it will prove beneficial for the devotee. Since the Supreme Personality of Godhead is always merciful, even when it appears that he has killed a demon, or even when he apparently becomes angry toward a devotee, his actions are always auspicious. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is therefore known as all good. Whatever he does is good.
As far as the benedictions given by demigods like Lord Shiva, there is the following historical incident cited by great sages. Once Lord Shiva, after giving a benediction to a demon named Vrikasura, the son of Sakuni, was himself entrapped in a very dangerous position. Vrikasura was searching after a benediction and trying to decide which of the three presiding deities to worship in order to get it. In the meantime, he happened to meet the great sage Narada and consulted with him as to whom he should approach to achieve quick results from his austerity. He inquired of the three deities, namely Lord Brahma, Lord Vishnu, and Lord Shiva, who is most quickly satisfied. Narada could understand the plan of the demon, and he advised him, "You had better worship Lord Shiva, then you will quickly get the desired result." Lord Shiva is very quickly satisfied and very quickly dissatisfied also. So, you try to satisfy Lord Shiva. Narada also cited instances wherein demons like Ravana and Banasura were enriched with great opulences simply by satisfying Lord Shiva with prayers. Because the great sage Narada was also of the nature of the demon Vrikasura, he did not advise him to approach Vishnu or Lord Brahma. Persons such as Vrikasura, who are situated in the material mode of ignorance, cannot stick to the worship of Vishnu.
After receiving instruction from Narada, the demon Vrikasura went to Kedarnath. The pilgrimage seat of Kedarnath still exists near Kashmir. It is almost always covered by snow, but for part of the year, during the months of July, it is possible to see the deity, and devotees go there to offer their respects. Kedarnath is for the devotees of Lord Shiva. According to the Vedic principle, when something is offered to the deities to eat, it is offered in the fire. Therefore, a fire sacrifice is necessary in all sorts of ceremonies. It is specifically stated in the Shastra that gods are to be offered something to eat through the fire. The demon Vrikasura therefore went to Kedarnath and ignited a sacrificial fire to please Lord Shiva.
After igniting the fire in the name of Lord Shiva, to please him, Vrikasura began to offer his own flesh by cutting it from his body. Here is an instance of worship in the mode of ignorance. In the Bhagavad Gita, different types of sacrifices are mentioned. Some sacrifices are in the mode of goodness, some are in the mode of passion, and some are in the mode of ignorance. There are different kinds of tapasya and worship because there are different kinds of people within this world. But the ultimate tapasya, Krishna consciousness, is the topmost yoga and the topmost sacrifice. As confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, the topmost yoga is to think always of Lord Krishna within the heart, and the topmost sacrifice is to perform the Sankirtana Yajna.
Fast service. Hare Krishna. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is stated that the worshippers of the demigods have lost their intelligence. As revealed later in this chapter, Vrikasura wanted to satisfy Lord Shiva for a third-class materialistic objective, which was temporary and without real benefit. The asuras, or the persons within the mode of ignorance, will accept such benedictions from the demigods. In complete contrast to this sacrifice in the mode of ignorance, the Archana Vidhi process for worshipping Lord Vishnu or Krishna is very simple. Lord Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that he accepts from his devotee even a little fruit, a flower, or some water, which can be gathered by any person, rich or poor. Of course, those who are rich are not expected to offer only a little water, a little piece of fruit, or a little leaf to the Lord. A rich man should offer according to his position. But if the devotee happens to be a very poor man, the Lord will accept even the most meager offering. The worship of Lord Vishnu or Krishna is very simple, and it can be executed by anyone in this world. But worship in the mode of ignorance, as exhibited by Vrikasura, is not only very difficult and painful, but is also a useless waste of time. Therefore, the Bhagavad Gita says that the worshippers of the demigods are bereft of intelligence, their process of worship is very difficult, and at the same time, the result obtained is flickering and temporary.
Although Vrikrasura continued his sacrifice for 6 days, he was unable to personally see Lord Shiva, which was his objective. He wanted to see him face to face and ask him for a benediction. Here is another contrast between demons and devotees. A devotee is confident that whatever he offers to the deity in full devotional service is accepted by the Lord. But a demon wants to see his worshipable deity face to face so that he can directly take the benediction. A devotee does not worship Vishnu or Lord Krishna for any benediction. Therefore, a devotee is called akama, free of desire, and a non-devotee is called sarvakama, or desirous of everything. On the 7th day, the demon Vrikrasura decided that he should cut off his head and offer it to satisfy Lord Shiva. Thus he took a bath in a nearby lake, and without drying his body and hair, he prepared to cut off his head. According to the Vedic system, an animal to be offered as a sacrifice has to be bathed first, and while the animal is wet, it is sacrificed. When the demon was thus preparing to cut off his head, Lord Shiva became very compassionate. This compassion is a symptom of a quality of goodness. Lord Shiva is called Trilinga, a mixture of the three material qualities. Therefore, his manifestation of the nature of compassion is a sign of the quality of goodness. This compassion, however, is present in every living entity. The compassion of Lord Shiva was aroused not because the demon was offering his flesh into the sacrificial fire, but because he was about to commit suicide. This is natural compassion. Even if a common man sees someone preparing to commit suicide, he will try to save him. He does so automatically. There is no need to appeal to him. Therefore, when Lord Shiva appeared from the fire to check the demon from suicide, it was not done as a very great favor to him.
Lord Shiva touch saved the demon from committing suicide. His bodily injuries immediately healed, and his body became as it was before. Then Lord Shiva told the demon, "My dear Vrikasura, you do not need to cut off your head. You may ask from me any benediction you like, and I shall fulfill your desire. I do not know why you wanted to cut off your head to satisfy me. I become satisfied even by an offering of a little water." Actually, according to the Vedic process, Shiva Linga is in the temple of the form of Lord Shiva in the temple is worshipped simply by offering Ganges water, because it is said that Lord Shiva is greatly satisfied when Ganges water is poured upon his head. Generally, devotees of Ganges water and the leaves of the Bilva tree, which are especially meant for offering to Lord Shiva and Goddess Durga. The fruit of this tree is also offered to Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva assured Vrikasura that he is satisfied by a very simple process of worship. Why then was he so eager to cut off his head? And why was he taking so much pain by cutting his body to pieces and offering it in the fire? There was no need of such severe penances. Anyway, out of compassion and sympathy, Lord Shiva prepared to give him any benediction he liked.
When the demon was offered this facility by Lord Shiva, okay. When the demon was offered this facility by Lord Shiva, he asked for a fearful and abominable benediction. The demon was very sinful, and sinful persons do not know what sort of benediction should be asked from the deity. Therefore, he asked Lord Shiva to bless him with such a power that as soon as he would touch anyone's head, it would immediately crack and the man would die. The demons are described in the Bhagavad Gita as duskritis, or miscreants. Kriti means very meritorious, but when du is added, it means abominable. Instead of surrendering unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Duskritis worship different demigods to derive abominable material benefits. Although the Duskritis have brain power and merit, their merit and brain power are used for abominable activities. Sometimes, for example, materialistic scientists invent a lethal weapon. The scientific research for such an invention certainly requires a very good brain, but instead of inventing something beneficial to human society, they invent something to accelerate death, which is already assured to every man. They cannot show their meritorious power by inventing something which can save man from death. Instead, they invent weapons which accelerate the process of death. Similarly, Vrikasura, instead of asking Lord Shiva for something beneficial to human society, asked for something very dangerous to human society. Lord Shiva is powerful enough to give any benediction. So the demon could have asked something beneficial from him, but for his personal interest he asked that anyone whose head would be touched by his hand would at once die. Lord Shiva could understand the motive of the demon, and he was very sorry that he had assured him whatever benediction he liked. He could not withdraw his promise, but he was very sorry in his heart that he was to offer him a benediction so dangerous to human society. Devotees of the personality of Godhead never ask any benediction from Lord Vishnu or Krsna, and even if they ask something from the Lord, it is not at all dangerous for human society. That is the difference between the demons and the devotees, or the worshippers of Lord Shiva and the worshippers of Lord Vishnu.
Miss Sandra.
Stand up?
Yeah, you should be in here.
Oh, I feel a little problem if I stand up. Hare Krishna. While Sukadeva Goswami was narrating the story of Brikasura, he addressed Maharaja Parikshit as Bharata, referring to King Parikshit's birth in a family.
Yeah, we can't hear you. Very slowly and loudly. Try again. Well, so not
Oh, my bag is there.
It's okay. It's fine. Yeah, it's okay.
While Sukadeva Goswami was narrating the story of Brikasura, he addressed Maharaja Parikshit as Bharata, referring to King Parikshit's birth in a family of devotees. Maharaja Parikshit was saved by Lord Krishna while in his mother's womb. Later he could have asked Lord Krishna to save him again from the curse of a Brahmana, but he did not do so. The demon, however, wanted to become immortal by killing everyone with the touch of his hand. Lord Shiva could understand this, but because he had promised, he gave him the benediction.
The demon, however, being very sinful, immediately decided that he would use the benediction to kill Lord Shiva and take away Gauri, or Parvati, for his personal enjoyment. He immediately decided to place his hand on the head of Lord Shiva. Thus, Lord Shiva was put into an awkward position because he was endangered by his own benediction to a demon. This is an instance of a materialistic devotees misusing the power derived from the demigods.
Without further deliberation, the demon Vrikrasur approached Lord Shiva to place his hand on Lord Shiva's head. Lord Shiva was so afraid of him that his body trembled, and he fled from the land to the sky and from the sky to other planets until he reached the limbs of the universes. Above the higher planetary system, Lord Shiva fled from one place to another, but the demon Vrikasur continued to chase him. The predominating deities of other planets, such as Brahma, Indra, Chandra, could not find any way to save Lord Shiva from the impending danger. Wherever Lord Shiva went, they remained silent. At last, Lord Shiva approached Lord Vishnu, who is situated within the universe of the planet known as Shvetadipa. Shvetadipa is the local Vaikuntha planet, beyond the jurisdiction of the influence of the external energy. Lord Vishnu, in his all-pervasive features, remains everywhere, but wherever he remains personally is the Vaikuntha atmosphere. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is stated that the Lord remains within the heart of all living entities. As such, the Lord remains within the heart of many low-born living entities, but that doesn't mean he is low-born. Wherever he remains, he is transformed into Vaikuntha. So the planet within this universe known as Shvetadipa is also Vaikuntha Loka. It is said in the Shastras that residential quarters within the forest are in the mode of goodness. Residential quarters in big cities, town, and villages are in the mode of passion, and the residential quarters in an atmosphere wherein indulgences in the four sinful activities of illicit sex, intoxication, meat eating, and gambling predominates are in the mode of ignorance. But residential quarters in a temple of Vishnu, the Supreme Lord, are in Vaikuntha. It doesn't matter where the temple is situated, the temple itself, wherever it may be, is Vaikuntha. Similarly, the Shvetadvipa planet, although within the material jurisdiction, is Vaikuntha.
Lord Shiva finally entered Svetadip, Venkuta. In Svetadip, there are great saintly persons who are completely freed from the envy nature of the material world and are beyond the jurisdictions of the four principles of material activities, namely religious, economic development, and sense gratification and liberation. Anyone who enters into that Venkuta planet never returns to this material world. Lord Narayana is celebrated as a lover of his devotee, and as soon as he understood that Lord Shiva was in great danger, he appeared as a brahmachari and personally approached Lord Shiva to receive him from their distant place. The Lord appeared as a perfect brahmachari with a belt around his waist, a secret thread, a deer skin, brahmachari stick, and Rudra beads. Rudra beads are different from Tulsi beads. Rudra beads are used by the devotee of Lord Shiva. Dressed as a brahmachari, Lord Narayana stood before Lord Shiva. The shining effulgence emanating from his body attracted not only Lord Shiva but also the demon Vitasura.
Lord Narayana offered his respects and obeisances unto Vrikasura just to attract his sympathy and attention. Thus, stopping this demon, the Lord addressed him as follows: My dear son of Sakuni, you appear very tired, as if coming from a very distant place. What is your purpose? Why have you come so far? I see that you are fatigued, so I request you to take a little rest. You should not unnecessarily tire your body. Everyone greatly values his body because only with the body can one fulfill all the desires of one's mind. We should not therefore unnecessarily give trouble to the body.
The brahmachari addressed Vrakasura as the son of Sakuni, just to convince him that he was known to his father Shakuni. Vrakasura then took the brahmachari to be someone known to his family, and therefore the brahmachari's sympathetic words appealed to him. Therefore, the demon could argue that he had no time to take rest. The Lord informed him about the importance of the body, and the demon was convinced. Any man, especially a demon, takes his body to be very important. Thus, Vrakasura became convinced about the importance of his body.
Then, just to pacify the demon, the brahmachari told him, My dear Lord, if you think that you can disclose the mission of which you have taken the trouble to come here, maybe I shall be able to help you so that your purpose will be easily served. Indirectly, the Lord informed him that because the Lord is the Supreme Brahma, he would certainly be able to adjust the awkward situation created by Lord Shiva. Should I continue? The demon was greatly pacified by the sweet words of Lord Narayana in the form of a brahmachari, and at last he disclosed all that he had happened to regard to the benediction offered by Lord Shiva. The Lord replied to the demon as follows: I myself cannot believe that Lord Shiva has in truth given you such a benediction. As far as I know, Lord Shiva is not in a sane mental condition. When he had a quarrel with his father-in-law, Daksha, he was cursed to become a pisacha, ghost. Thus he has to become the leader of ghosts and hobgoblins. Therefore, I cannot put any faith in his words. But if you still have faith in the words of Lord Shiva, my dear king of the demons, then why don't you take an experiment by putting your hand on your own head? If the benediction proves false, then you can at once kill the liar, Lord Shiva, so that in the future he will not dare give you false benedictions.
In this way, by Lord Narayana's sweet words and by the expansion of his superior illusion, the demon became bewildered, and he actually forgot the power of Lord Shiva and his benediction. He was thus very easily persuaded to put his hand on his own head. As soon as the demon did that, his head cracked, as if struck by a thunderbolt, and he immediately died. The demigods from heaven showered flowers on Lord Narayana, praising him with shouts of all glories and all thanksgiving, and they offered their obeisances to the Lord. On the death of Vrikasura, all the denizens in the higher planetary systems, namely the demigods, the Pitras, the Gandharvas, and the inhabitants of Janaloka, showered flowers on the personality of Godhead.
Thus, Lord Vishnu, in the form of Brahmachari, released Lord Shiva from the impending danger and saved the whole situation. Lord Narayan then informed Lord Shiva that this demon, Vrikasura, was killed as the result of his sinful activities. He was especially sinful and offensive because he wanted to experiment on his own master, Lord Shiva. Lord Narayan then told Lord Shiva, My dear Lord, a person who commits an offense to great souls cannot continue to exist. He is vanquished by his own sinful activities, and this is certainly true of this demon, who has committed such an offensive act against you. Thus, by the grace of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan, who is transcendental to all material qualities, Lord Shiva was saved from being killed by a demon. Anyone who hears this history with faith and devotion is certainly liberated from material entanglement, as well as from the clutches of his enemies. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 88th chapter of Krsna, the deliverance of Lord Shiva.
Chapter 89. The Super Excellent Power of Krishna. Long, long ago, there was an assembly of great sages on the bank of the river Sarasvati, who performed the great sacrifice of the name Sadra. In such assemblies, the great sages present usually discuss Vedic subject matters and philosophical topics, and in this particular meeting the following question was raised. The three predominating deities of this material world, namely Lord Brahma, Lord Vishnu, and Lord Shiva, are directing all the affairs of this cosmos, but who among them is the supreme? After much discussion on this question, the great sage named Bhrigu the son of Lord Brahma, was deputed to test all three predominating deities and report to the assembly as to who is the greatest.
Being thus deputed, the great sage Bhrigu Muni first of all went to his father's residence in Brahmaloka. The three deities are the controllers of the three material qualities, namely the qualities of goodness, passion, and ignorance. The plan decided upon by the sages was for Bhrigu to test which one of the predominating deities possessed the quality of goodness in full. Therefore, when Bhrigu Muni reached his father, Lord Brahma, because Bhrigu wanted to test whether Brahma had the quality of goodness, he purposely did not offer his respects to his father, either by offering obeisances or by offering prayers. It is the duty of a son or a disciple to offer respects and recite suitable prayers when he approaches his father or spiritual master. But Bhrigu Muni purposely failed to offer respects just to see Lord Brahma's reaction to this negligence. Lord Brahma was very angry at his son's impudence, and he showed signs which definitely proved this to be so. He was even prepared to condemn Bhrigu by cursing him. But because Bhrigu was his son, Lord Brahma controlled his anger with his great intelligence. This means that although the quality of passion was prominent in Lord Brahma, he had the power to control it. Lord Brahma's anger and his controlling his anger are likened to fire and water. Water is produced from fire at the beginning of creation, but fire can be extinguished with water. Similarly, although Lord Brahma was very angry due to his quality of passion, he could still control his passion because Bhrigu Muni was his son.
After testing Lord Brahma, Bhrigu Muni went directly to the Mount Kailash, where Lord Shiva resides. Bhrigu Muni happened to be Lord Shiva's brother. Therefore, as soon as Bhrigu Muni approached, Lord Shiva was very glad and personally rose to embrace him. But when Lord Shiva approached, Bhrigu Muni refused to embrace him. "My dear brother," he said, "you are always very impure. Because you smear your body with ashes, you are not very clean. Please do not touch me." When Bhrigu Muni refused to embrace his brother, saying that Lord Shiva was impure, the latter became very angry with him. It is said that an offense can be committed either with the body, with the mind, or by speech. Bhrigu Muni's first offense committed towards Lord Brahma was an offense with the mind. His second offense committed towards Lord Shiva by insulting him, criticizing him for unclean habits, was an offense by speech. Because the quality of ignorance is prominent in Lord Shiva, when he heard Bhrigu's insult, his eyes immediately became red with anger. With uncontrollable rage, he took up his trident and prepared to kill Bhrigu Muni. At that time, Lord Shiva's wife Parvati was present. Her personality, like Lord Shiva's, is a mixture of three qualities, and therefore she is called Trigunamayi. In this case, she saved the situation by evoking Lord Shiva's quality of goodness. She fell down at the feet of her husband, and with her sweet words, she talked him out of killing Bhrigu Muni.
After being saved from the anger of Lord Shiva, Bhrigu Muni went directly to the planet Satyadev, where Lord Vishnu was lying on the bed of flowers of the company of his wife, the goddess of fortune, who was engaged in massaging his lotus feet. There Bhrigu Muni purposely committed the greatest sin by offending Lord Vishnu by his bodily activities. The first offenses committed by Bhrigu Muni was mental, the second offense was vocal, and the third offense was corporal. These different offenses are progressively greater in degrees. An offense committed within the mind is positive offense. The same offense committed verbally in the comparatively more grave, and when committed by the bodily action, it is superlative or in offenselessness. So Bhrigu Muni committed the greatest offenses by kicking the chest of Lord in the presence of the goddess of fortune. Of course, Lord Vishnu is all merciful. He did not become angry at the activities of Bhrigu Muni, for Bhrigu Muni was the greatest Brahmana. A Brahmana is to be excused even if he sometimes commit an offenses. Lord Vishnu set the example. Yet it is said that from the time of the instant, the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, has not been ever favorable disposed toward the Brahmanas. And therefore, because the goddess of fortune withhold her benediction from them, the Brahmanas are generally very poor. Bhrigu Muni kicking the chest of Lord Vishnu was certainly a great offense. But Lord Vishnu is so great that he did not care. The so-called Brahmana of the Kali Yuga are sometimes very proud that a great Brahmana like Bhrigu Muni could touch the chest of Lord Vishnu with his foot. But in fact, when Bhrigu Muni kicked the chest of Lord Vishnu, it was the greatest offense. Although Lord Vishnu, being greatly magnanimous, did not take it very seriously.
Instead of being angry or curse Bhrigu Muni, Lord Vishnu immediately got up from his bed along with his wife, the goddess of fortune, and offered respectful obeisances to the Brahmana. He addressed Bhrigu Muni as follows: My dear Brahmana, it is my greatest fortune that you have come here. Please, therefore, sit down on this cushion for a few minutes. My dear Brahmana, I am very sorry that when you first entered my home, I could not receive you properly. It was a great offense on my part, and I beg you to pardon me. You are so pure and great that the water which washes your feet can purify even the places of pilgrimage. Therefore, I request you to purify the Vaikuntha planet where I live with my associates. My dear Father, O great sage, I know that your feet are very soft like a lotus flower, and that my chest is as hard as a thunderbolt. I am therefore afraid that you may have felt some pain by kicking my chest. Let me touch your feet to relieve the pain you have suffered. Lord Vishnu then began to massage the feet of Bhrigu Muni.
The Lord continued to address Bhrigu Muni. My dear Lord, he said, my chest has now become sanctified because of the touch of your feet, and I am now assured that the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, will be very glad to live there perpetually. Another name for Lakshmi is Kanchala, indicating that she does not stay in one place for a long time. Therefore, we see that a rich man's family sometimes becomes poor after a few generations, and sometimes we see that a poor man's family becomes very rich. Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, is Kanchala in the material world, whereas in the Vaikuntha planet she eternally lives at the lotus feet of the Lord. Because Lakshmi is famous as Chanchala, Lord Narayan indicated that she might not have been living perpetually by his chest. But because his chest had been touched by the feet of Bhrigu Muni, it was now sanctified, and there was no chance that the big goddess of fortune would live. Bhrigu Muni, however, could understand his position and that of the Lord, and he was struck with wonder at the behavior of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because of his gratitude, his voice shocked up, and he was unable to reply to the words of the Lord. Tears glided from his eyes, and he could not say anything. He simply stood silently before the Lord.
After testing Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and Lord Vishnu, Bhrigu Muni returned to the assembly of great sages on the bank of river Saraswati and described his experience. After hearing him with great attention, the sages concluded that of all the predominating deities, Lord Vishnu is certainly the greatest. In Srimad Bhagavatam, these great sages are described as Brahmavadinam. Brahmavadinam means those who talk about the absolute truth but have not yet came to the conclusion. Generally, Brahmavadi refers to the impersonalists or to those who are students of the Vedas. It is to be understood, therefore, that all the gathered sages were serious students of the Vedic literature, but had not come to a definite conclusion as to who is the Supreme Absolute Personality of Godhead. But after hearing of Bhrigu Muni's experience in meeting all three predominating deities, Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, and Lord Vishnu, the sages concluded that Lord Vishnu is the Supreme Truth, the Personality of Godhead. It is said in Srimad Bhagavatam that after hearing the details from Bhrigu Muni, the sages were astonished because although Lord Brahma and Lord Vishnu were immediately agitated, Lord Vishnu, in spite of being kicked by Bhrigu Muni, was not agitated in the least. The example is given that small lamps may be agitated by a slight breeze, but the greatest lamp or the greatest illuminating source, the sun, is never moved, even by the greatest hurricane. One's greatness has to be estimated by one's ability to tolerate provoking situations. The sages gathered on the banks of the river Saraswati concluded that one who wants actual peace and freedom from all fear should take shelter of the lotus feet of Vishnu. Since Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva lost their peaceful attitude upon a slight provocation, how can they maintain the peace and tranquility of their devotees? As for Lord Vishnu, however, it is stated in the Bhagavad Gita that anyone who accepts Lord Vishnu or Krsna as the supreme friend attains the highest perfection of peaceful life.
The sages thus concluded that by following the principles of Vaishnava Dharma, one becomes actually perfect. But that if one follows all the religious principles of a particular sect and does not become advanced in understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, all such labor of love is fruitless. To execute religious principles means to come to the platform of perfect knowledge. If one comes to that platform of perfect knowledge, then he will be uninterested in material affairs. Perfect knowledge means knowledge of one's own self and the Supreme Self. The Supreme Self and the individual self, although one in quality, are different in quantity. This analytical understanding of knowledge is perfect. Simply to understand, I am not matter, I am spirit, is not perfect knowledge. The real religious principle is devotional service or bhakti. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, where Lord Krishna says, "Give up all other religious principles and simply surrender unto me." Therefore, the term dharma applies only to Vaishnava dharma or Bhagavad dharma, by following which one automatically achieves all good qualities and advancements in life.
The highest perfectional knowledge is knowledge of the Supreme Lord. He cannot be understood by any process of religion other than devotional service. Therefore, the immediate result of perfect knowledge is achieved by executing devotional service. After attainment of knowledge, one becomes uninterested in the material world. This is not because of dry philosophical speculation. The devotees become uninterested in the material world not simply because of theoretical understanding but because of practical experience. When a devotee realizes the effect of association with the Supreme Lord, he naturally hates the association of so-called society, friendship, and love. This detachment is not dry, but is due to achieving a higher status of life by relishing transcendental mellows. It is further stated in Srimad Bhagavatam that after attainment of such knowledge and such detachment from material sense gratification, one's advancement in the 8 opulences attained through mystic yoga practice such as the Anima, Lagima, and Prapti Siddhis is also achieved without separate effort. The perfect example is Maharaj Ambarish. He was not a mystic yogi but a great devotee, yet in a disagreement with Maharaj Ambarish, the great mystic Durvasa was defeated in the presence of the king's devotional attitude. In other words, a devotee does not need to practice the mystic yoga system to achieve power. The power is behind him by the grace of the Lord, just as when a small child is surrendered to a powerful father, all the powers of the father are behind him.
When a person becomes famous as a devotee of the Lord, his reputation is never to be extinguished. Lord Chaitanya, when discussing with Ramananda Roy, questioned, "What is the greatest fame?" Ramananda Roy replied that to be known as a pure devotee of Lord Krishna is the perfect fame. The conclusion, therefore, is that Vishnu Dharma, or the religion of devotional service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is meant for persons who are thoughtful. By proper utilization of thoughtfulness, one comes to the stage of thinking of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By thinking of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one becomes free from the contamination of the faulty association of material world, and thus one becomes peaceful. The world is in a disturbed condition because of a scarcity of such peaceful devotees in human society. Unless one is a devotee, one cannot be equal to all living entities. A devotee is equally disposed towards the animals, the human beings, and all living entities because he sees every living entity as a part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. In the Ishopanishad, it is clearly stated that one who has come to the stage of seeing all living beings equally does not hate anyone or favor anyone. The devotee does not hanker to possess more than he requires. Devotees are therefore akintana. In any condition of life, a devotee is satisfied. It is said that a devotee is even-minded, whether he is in hell or in heaven. A devotee is callous to all subjects other than his engagement in devotional service. This mode of life is the highest perfectional stage, from which one can be elevated to the spiritual world, back home, back to Godhead. The devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are especially attracted by the highest material quality. Goodness and the qualified pramana is the symbolic representation of this goodness. Therefore, a devotee is attached to the Brahminical stage of life. He is not very interested in passion or ignorance, although these qualities also emanate from the Supreme Lord Vishnu. In Srimad Bhagavatam, the devotees are described as Nipuna Buddhayaha, which means that they are the most intelligent class of men. Uninfluenced by attachment or hatred, the devotee lives very peacefully and is not agitated by the influence of passion and ignorance.
It may be It may be questioned here why a devotee should be attached to the quality of goodness in the material world if he is transcendental to all material qualities. The answer is that there are different kinds of people existing in the modes of material nature. Those in the mode of ignorance are called Rakshasas, those in the mode of passion are called Asuras, and those in the mode of goodness are called Suras or demigods. Under the direction of the Supreme Lord, these three classes of men are created by material nature, but those in the mode of goodness have a greater chance to be elevated to the spiritual world back home, back to Godhead. Thus, all the sages who assembled on the bank of the river Sarasvati to try to determine who is the supreme predominating deity became freed from all doubts about Vishnu worship. All of them thereafter engaged in devotional service, and thus they achieved the desired result and went back to Godhead.
Those who are actually eager to be liberated from material entanglement would do well to accept at once the conclusion given by Sri Shukadeva Goswami. In the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is spoken by Shukadeva Goswami, it is said that hearing Srimad Bhagavatam is extremely conducive to liberation. The same fact is now confirmed by Sutta Goswami. If anyone who is traveling aimlessly within this material world cares to hear the nectarian words spoken by Shukadeva Goswami, certainly he will come to the right conclusion, which is that simply by discharging devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one will be able to stop the fatigue of perpetually migrating from one material body to another. In other words, one who becomes fixed in loving devotional service to Vishnu will certainly be able to get relief from this journey of material life, and the process is very simple. One has to give oral reception to the sweet words spoken by Shukadeva Goswami in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam.
Another conclusion is that we should never consider the demigods, even Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, to be on an equal level with Lord Vishnu. If we do this, then according to the Padma Purana, we are immediately categorized as atheists. Also, in the Vedic scripture known as Hari Vansa, it is stated that only the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, is to be worshipped, and that the Hare Krishna Mahamantra or any such Vishnu mantra is always to be chanted. In the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Lord Brahma says, both Lord Shiva and I are engaged by the Supreme Personality of Godhead to act in different capacities under his direction. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is also stated that the only master is Krishna, and that all others in all categories of life are servants of Krishna only. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is confirmed by the Lord that there is no truth superior to Krishna. Shukadeva Goswami also, in order to draw attention to the fact that among all Vishnu Tattva's forms, Lord Krishna is 100% the Supreme Personality of Godhead, narrated the story of an incident which took place when Lord Krishna was present.
So that concludes our 1 hour of reading Krishna book to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you, Srila Prabhupada, for allowing us to come and read to you. And as always, let us offer our respectful obeisances to Srila Prabhupada and to each other. Namo Om Vishnumadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharane Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Paskachade Shatarane. To each other, Vancha Kalpaturvyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patita Nam Pavane Bhyo Vaishnave Bhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Krishna Book, Jai Srila Prabhupada, Jai Shri Gauda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. So come back next week, same time, same